Are you facing criminal charges but believe self-defense is your answer? You're not alone. So in the state of Indiana, like most states, we have self-defense laws, and they can protect individuals in specific situations. Different states have different laws. People might be more familiar with the Castle Doctrine, stand your ground. Indiana, like many states, has self-defense laws where you are allowed to use self-defense for a number of situations. We at the Marc Lopez law firm are very experienced in arguing self-defense. We understand the ins and outs of self-defense. There are a lot of different arguments to be made. And so in this video, I'm going to attempt to kind of give a cursory view and overhead view of what self-defense is in Indiana, if that's what you're trying to argue. So in the next few minutes, we'll break down the basics of self-defense in Indiana and why having the right legal support can be critical. So first, what is self-defense? Indiana law allows individuals to use force to protect themselves or others when they face imminent harm. And so you may use as much force as necessary, but it must be reasonable under the circumstances. So there's some key requirements for a self-defense claim. First, you need to be without fault. The individual must not have initiated the conflict or have been committing a crime during the incident. The person also needs to be in real danger. The person must have had a reasonable belief that they were in imminent danger of serious bodily harm. And finally, the individual needs to be in the right place. They must have a legal right to be in the location that they were in. But there are limits to self-defense. There are a number of different scenarios that we could talk about where self-defense might not apply. For example, if you were the initial aggressor, generally speaking, you can't claim self-defense. Or if you used excessive force, the force used must match the threat that's posed. An example of this might be if you were the initial aggressor. If you threw the first punch in a bar fight and then someone punched you back, you don't get to claim self-defense if you're the one that threw the first punch and that person just had their hands down to the side. Also, you have to match reasonable force. So arguably, if someone pushed you, you could push them back and that would be self-defense. But if someone pushes you and you pull out a machete and cut them with it, that might not be a proportional response. And so your claim of self-defense might not be valid. So the rule of evidence in self-defense can be really important. You have to be able to prove the reasonable fear or the danger through evidence. And this can be the victim's aggression. This can be physical threats. This could be who has worse injuries. This could be video. There's a number of ways that evidence can be used to show self-defense. The state has the burden of disproving self-defense. And this is really important because generally speaking, the state has the burden of proof and the defense doesn't have to do anything. So if we are to argue self-defense, then now the state has the burden to disprove that. And that's really important. So how can we at the Marc Lopez law firm help? Well, first, we've got experience in arguing and defending self-defense and navigating self-defense cases. We've taken self-defense cases to trial. We understand the law. Our team is going to thoroughly examine your case. We're going to ensure that if you have a valid self-defense claim, we can make that self-defense claim and we can fight to protect your rights. So if you're facing criminal charges, it can be overwhelming. You don't have to face them alone. It can especially be overwhelming when you feel like the criminal charges you're facing are the result of you having to act in self-defense. But here at the Marc Lopez law firm, we have helped countless clients assert their right to self-defense in court, and we're ready to help you too. So if you're looking for an attorney, call the Marc Lopez law firm today at 317-632-3642. And remember, always plead the fifth.